Elon Musk, welcome to Qatar Economic Forum. How are you?
Jak się masz?
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
Teším sa, že ťa tu máme. A aj keby sa medzi divákmi našla tona ľudí s lepšími otázkami, sedím tu ja, takže budeme svedkami Inkvizície.
What you are facing is a significant problem. This Tesla was an incredibly aspirational brand. People identified with it. They saw it as being at the forefront of the climate crisis, and now people are driving around with stickers in their cars saying, I bought this before we knew Elon was crazy.
Hej, a ja som začal používať Microsoft predtým, než som vedel, že Bill Gates shortuje akcie Tesly. Na čelo som si dal nálepku, aby každý vedel, aký mám na to názor.
There are also people who are buying it because Elon's crazy, or however they may view it. So yes, we've lost some sales perhaps on the left, but we've gained them on the right. The sales numbers at this point are strong, and we see no problem with demand. Our stock wouldn't be trading near all-time highs if it was not, if things weren't in good shape. They're fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Žiadne obavy.
So tell me then how committed you are to Tesla. Do you see yourself, and are you committed to still being the chief executive of Tesla in 5 years' time?
Yes.
No doubt about that at all.
OK, a čo tak pochybnosti?
Well, no, I might die.
Okay, short of that.
I can't be see if I'm dead, so there's a slight amount of
Pochybnosti.
Are you saying you are relaxed about the value of your future pay package? Your decision to be committed to Tesla for the next 5 years, as long as you are still with us on this planet, is completely independent of pay?
No.
It's not independent. So pay is a relevant factor then to your commitment to Tesla.
Očakávať, že Elon bude pracovať zadarmo je vrcholne nechutné. Ten človek pracoval zadarmo 7 rokov bez toho, aby dostal, čo mu bolo sľúbené. 0 za 7 rokov napriek tomu, že zvýšil hodnotu firmy o 2000%.
Sufficient voting control such that I cannot be ousted by activist investors is what matters to me. And I've said this publicly many times. But let's not have this whole thing be a discussion of my alleged pay. It's not a money thing. It's a reasonable control thing over the future of the company, especially if we're building millions, potentially billions of humanoid robots. I can't be sitting there and wanting to get tossed out by, for political reasons, by activists. That would be unacceptable. That's all that matters. Now let's move on.
Okay, well, just one question.
Let's move on.
Well,
Ale tej legende je už jedno. Posadil ju tam, kde patrí.
one question before we move on to other companies, which is that I wonder if some of what has happened to Tesla in the last few months, did you take it personally?
No nie.
Yes.
And did it make you regret any of, or think twice about your political endeavors?
I did what needed to be done. The violent antibody reaction, and I'm not someone who's ever committed violence, and yet massive violence was committed against my companies. Massive violence was threatened against me. Who are these people? Why would they do that? How wrong can they be? They're on the wrong side of history, and that's an evil thing to do. To go and damage some poor innocent person's car, to threaten to kill me. What's wrong with these people? I've not harmed anyone. So, something needs to be done about them. And a number of them are going to prison, and they deserve it. And more will.
You're referring to the attacks on Tesla showrooms, but I think...
Yeah. Firing bullets into showrooms and burning down cars is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Those people will go to prison, and the people that funded them and organized them will also go to prison. Don't worry.
But wouldn't you...
We're coming for you.
Wouldn't you... But wouldn't you acknowledge that some of the people who turned against Tesla in Europe were upset at your politics, and very few of them would have been violent in any way. They just objected to what they saw you say or do politically.
Čauko.
Keď už nič nezaberalo, v januári minulého roku mi doktor odporúčil zmeniť názov stránky kvôli piesku vo vagíne.
Myslí v dekátkach.
Well, it's certainly fine to object to political things, but it's not fine to resort to violence and hanging someone in effigy and death threats. That's obviously not okay. That's absurd. That is in no way justifiable at all, in any way, shape, or form. And some of the legacy media nonetheless have sought to justify it, which is unconscionable. Shame on them.
Shame.
Do you see SpaceX moving into weaponized drones?
What the fuck?
You certainly ask interesting questions that are impossible to answer. SpaceX is it's the space launch leader. So SpaceX doesn't do drones. SpaceX builds rockets, satellites, and internet terminals. I don't currently anticipate SpaceX getting into the weapons business. That's not an aspiration. We're frequently asked to do weapons programs, but we have thus far declined.
Shame. Shame.
You are pushing ahead with the lawsuit against OpenAI.
Yes. Look, I came up with the name OpenAI as an open source and as a non-profit, and I funded OpenAI for the first roughly $50 million, it was intended to be a non-profit open source company, and now they're trying to change that for their own financial benefit into a for-profit company that is closed source. So this would be like, let's say you funded a non-profit to help preserve the Amazon rainforest, but instead of doing that, they became a lumber company, chopped down the forest, and sold the wood. You'd be like, wait a second, that's not what I funded. That's OpenAI.
Of course, we are challenging nature itself, and it hits back full of obscenity. Nature here is vile and base. I wouldn't see anything erotical here. I would see fornication and asphyxiation and choking and fighting for survival and growing and just rotting away. Of course, there's a lot of misery, but it is the same misery that is all around us. The trees here are in misery and the birds are in misery. I don't think they sing, they just screech in pain. It's a land that God, if he exists, has created in anger. Taking a close look at what's around us, there is some sort of a harmony. It is the harmony of overwhelming and collective murder. And we, in comparison to the articulate vileness and baseness and obscenity of all this jungle, we only sound and look like badly pronounced and half-finished sentences out of a stupid suburban novel. Even the stars up here in the sky look like a mess. There is no harmony in the universe as we have conceived it. When I say this all full of admiration for the jungle. It is not that I hate it. I love it. I love it very much, but I love it against my better judgment.
They've made some changes to their corporate structure, though, haven't they, since? In recognition of what you've said. And
No, that's just what they told the media.
You make a lot of money, do you?
No. I paid enough for health insurance. I have no equity in OpenAI.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. You need a lawyer.
I need a what?
You need a lawyer or an agent.
I'm doing this because I love it.
Nie som odborník na reč tela, ale keď telo krúti hlavou do boku pritom, keď niečo potvrdzuje, zdá sa, že jeho telo s tým úplne nesúhlasí.
okay. They have partly walked back their plan to restructure the business.
Jaj, tá super. Potom sa vlastne nič nestalo.
I guess that's made no difference to how you feel about it. So you determined to see them in court?
Of course.
Okay.
Having watched Musk very up close for a couple of years, I'm going to say something that you might think is naive, but I really believe it, which is he has certain missions he's had his whole life. He read Isaac Asimov. He read the Robot series. He thought the robots might turn on us. I have to come in and save us from hostile AI. I have to make us multiplanetary.
I mean, I feel you're somewhat trapped in the NPC dialogue tree of a traditional journalist. So it's difficult when I'm conversing with someone who's trapped in the dialogue tree of a conventional journalist, because it's like talking to a computer.
And unprecedented position of having billions of dollars worth of contracts with the federal government yourself, and the comments that Bill Gates made the other day, which, and I know that you called him...
Yeah, he's a huge liar.
I know, you've said that already.
That's
wondered...
Also,
and I'm just...
who does Bill Gates think he is to make comments about the welfare of children, given that he frequented Jeffrey Epstein?
Okay, well...
Game over.
He said he regrets those, and he spent a lot of his own money on philanthropy around the world over the years. My question to you is: have you looked at the data to check if he might be right that the cuts to USAID might cost millions of lives?
Yes. I'd like him to show us any evidence whatsoever that that is true. It's false. What we found with USAID cuts, and by the way, they haven't all been cut. The parts of USAID that were found to be even slightly useful were transferred to the State Department. But many times over with USAID and other organizations, when they said, "Oh well, this is going to help, children, or it's going to help some disease eradication or something like that," and then when we ask for any evidence whatsoever, I say, "Well, please connect us with this group of children so we can talk to them and understand more about their issue." We get nothing. we don't even try to come up with a show orphan, meaning like it's sort of like, well, can we at least see a few kids? Like, where are they? If they're in trouble, we'd like to talk to them and talk to their caregivers.
Okay, well,
and then we get nothing as a response, because it's what we find is an enormous amount of fraud and graft.
Okay, let me put this example to you.
Very little of it actually gets to the kids, if anything at all.
Okay, let me put this example to you, because... What about political influence beyond the US? How often do you speak to President Putin?
I don't speak to President Putin. Well, every year has been somewhat pivotal, and this one's no different. So, I mean, in terms of interesting things that hopefully are accomplished this year, getting Starship to be fully reusable, so that we catch both the booster and the ship, which would be the first fully reusable orbital rocket ever in history, would be a profound breakthrough, as the essential breakthrough necessarily to make life multiplanetary and ultimately become a spacefaring civilization. We've got Neuralink, which has now helped 5 patients restore capability using the telepathy implant, where they're able to control a computer simply by thinking. We'll be doing our first patient to restore sight with our blind sight implant, which is either end of this year or early next. In fact, that first patient might be in UAE, since we have a relationship with UAE and the Cleveland Clinic there. I think on the AI front, we are close to what you might call AGI, or digital superintelligence. I think we are seeing an explosion in digital superintelligence here. And then we've got at Tesla We'll be launching unsupervised autonomy, basically self-driving cars with no one in them, in Austin next month. So it's a big year for sure. Many other things on the in the works too.
Okay.
I'm a technologist first and foremost.